Yes, we're live, Emma. How are you?
Hi. How are
Very
you?
good right now.
Pardon?
Where are you?
I'm in Dubai at the moment. I'm in the Masafi offices today, which is full. It's like a little hive of activity out there. Did you get the link, Wellbees and Hive?
I did actually. Thank you so much for that, the undercover ad there. So this is Emma Davies's first LinkedIn Live episode. So I'm sure she's going to be addicted and she's going to be doing a lot of these. So welcome to her first live LinkedIn performance. Emma, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today for half an hour. A little bit about your journey, a little bit about Masafi, a little bit about Masafi's culture, and then Wellbees and Wellbees Challenge.
It's lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you as well. Let's start with your story. I love your story. Like, can you give us a glimpse about like where it all started, how you like ended up with the C-suite seat in
Gosh,
Dubai?
how far back do you want to go? So I moved to Dubai 15 years ago, on Tuesday. So that's a little anniversary there. So I moved to Dubai back 15 years ago. I came here to be head of comms, actually, not HR, for a construction company, because my background in the UK had been behavioural change, behavioural safety, and came here, found it very exciting. I'm not going to pretend that I said I was going to stay, overnight. I was going to stay for 3 years and never left. Nobody actually thinks that, and nobody actually does it. So I'm still here. I've had 3 roles in the Middle East, actually. So I went to another construction company where I was head of HR after that. And then I flipped to FMCG, and there was outcry. Everyone was like, you don't go into FMCG, you're either FMCG or you're not. And I came into Masafi, and it was a really different business back then. Now we have been on a long journey and a great journey. We're still on the journey, but yeah, it's good.
I'm curious, like, how did your comms background help you with HR?
So I was originally HR. My career started in HR. I actually worked with my dad in a manufacturing company in Norfolk. And I moved into comms. So behavioural change, where I worked in the rail industry, was around getting people to understand, actually, when I look back on it now, we've been doing this well for years, the power of kindness and the power of positivity at work. So a lot of accidents were caused by people trying to help, people trying to, it was never deliberate, but I was trying to do something for somebody else and an accident was caused. So I was part of the team that looked at behavioural change and how to get people to coach one another. We were using coaching back then. So it's kind of 17 years ago into behaving the right way, doing the right thing. We had something called the power of smile, about how you can change a whole kind of culture. And I know we don't like to talk about culture, but you can, by behaving the right way to people. And that's what we were doing in behavioural change. That was never going to really work here in the beginning, because it was about people challenging one another on unsafe acts. So that part of it wouldn't have worked here. So the CEO said to me, well, come and look at comms, do internal comms, do that behavioural change for me internally of how to getting people to behave the right way and connecting cultures, because when you come and work here, lots of people just come and assume it's going to be like London, while everybody's an expat, and it's not. I mean, I can't even remember how many nationalities we've got in our business, and the power of everybody understanding and respecting each other's cultures is so powerful. So that's what I was doing back then. And then the crash happened and I went back into learning and development. So I led the learning and development team at the previous construction company.
I love that story. And then, like, can you tell me a little bit about how that translates? No, I actually want to know about the FMCG, because like everybody says there's no way you can do, like, if you don't have that background in FMCG, you can't like dive into FMCG.
Yeah.
Like, how did you dive into FMCG?
I'll be really honest. I was headhunted, and then somebody said they wanted someone brutal. So they went for someone in construction. And I was like, you couldn't meet a less brutal person. But the theory was that because I dealt with the construction industry and dealt with kind of mass numbers within there, and it's a lot easier, to look after 15,000 people than it is to look after 2,000 people, because you can do much bigger movement on things. And actually, it's the same with my graduate program. When you do a graduate program and you bring 2 or 3 in, they're really easy to lose. With my previous graduate programs, I brought 25 in at a time, moved them as one. much easier. But yeah, so back to FMCG, they brought me in here because they wanted somebody who had a very different view. And I think that was really, really ahead of the time to say, hang on, we don't want to be boxed in. We don't want to be told, well, because we do it this way in FMCG. For the first 2 years, I did get told that. It was like, you don't have any FMCG experience. We don't do that in FMCG. I may get said occasionally now when I'm having a temper tantrum about something.
But Emma way.
Emma way. But yeah, you don't need FMCG experience to be in, and there are certain roles in HR. So like if you are a recruiter or resourcer, I understand why a network is so important to a business. So if I employ somebody in my recruitment team resourcing, it's the network. So it's FMCG or the other businesses that we run now, like auto and stuff like that. But the rest of it is people. People are the same. And salespeople, people say, oh no, salespeople are different. They're not. They want to be treated exactly the same as everyone else. They've just got some different drivers. So as long as you understand behaviors, you can work in any industry, in a people profession, in my mind.
Tell me a little bit about that journey, because like I'm going to dive into the behavior change part because that's what I'm really interested in. But at first, like can you give us a picture about like what Masapi looked like and like how the was and like where you are in that journey now?
Yeah, so when I first joined, I mean, I've talked about this quite openly, our employee satisfaction was very low, and there was a hire and fire culture, but more of a perception of that in the market. So in sales, if you're not performing, that's your job, that's your task. So there is going to be I mean, when I came here and I learned about the attrition rate, I hadn't researched, and this was very wrong of me, the attrition rate for FMCG. So for FMCG, I think it's around 24%. I'm not sure that's now, by the way, for anybody who wants to correct me. It was when I joined, it was. And I was horrified because in construction, I'd had an 8% attrition rate. So to go, and we were more than 24, a lot more than 24. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do you deal with this? But it's sales, isn't it? You know, you're not performing, people leave, and people will leave for low amounts of money, but more incentive. So it was a challenge coming in and understanding that. But what I had to do was say, right, I'm a support service, I'm different. It was considered that sales were the most important team in the business. Now they are. Don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of other people that are important. So our supply chain, our essential workers were as important. And when we started changing the behavior, and that's what we did here, is behavioral change. So we looked at it and said, how can we be fair for everybody? How can we be equitable for everyone? How can we be inclusive for everybody? When we started to behave that way, it changed everything. Now, we didn't, and again, I've been open about this, we didn't give everybody a pay rise. We didn't go, how to make everybody happy, let's give them a pay rise. We didn't do that. We did do benchmarking, of course, but we also looked at what we could do differently and how we could behave differently as leaders. We spent a lot of time working on our leaders' skills, managers' skills, how people should deal with people. People were given a voice as well, which there wasn't before. And I think that the power of that has been incredible for us as a business.
So did I hear you correctly? So when you came in, sales was king and everybody else was sort of like, you know, you guys are great, but like, you know, sales is so important. And then like we tried to balance that first. Yeah.
And then what it's done is it's driven a teamwork behavior. So sales now want to work with everyone else. They want to be with everyone else. You know, I often go into our inspiration station. You and I were talking about that before the call, where we have a barista, you know, we do have ping pong tables, we do have all of that. And I go in there and sales are working, playing with supply chain. That didn't used to happen. It was a very clear divide. And now I think the work that we've done on that is pretty incredible.
Okay, so this is fantastic. But how did you like see that problem? And then like, how did you decide to fix it with that?
I mean, seeing it was evident. There were barriers. There were more than barriers. There were physical barriers between them, you know, and there were some behaviors which led people to not talk to one another. You know, I mustn't talk to you. People weren't allowed to come and talk to me. That was obvious, you know, it was, hang on, you're not going to go and talk to her. And people used to find me outside and be like, can I just talk to you? And I was just, this isn't the way it should be. Let's have an open culture. If you want to come and talk to me, you can come and talk to me. And I mean, we've talked about this before. We took all the offices away. So nobody has an office anymore. We're all open plan. And when we're open plan, even the leaders are open plan. People can't come and talk to me if I'm in a fishbowl office or tucked away from everyone. So there were physical barriers, there were mental barriers, because we didn't do anything as a business together. So we started bringing all of the business together. When we wanted to do something, we were inclusivity is my key. We were inclusive of all. So we didn't say, right, we're going to go out for dinner as a team of a grade 12 and above. We weren't going to have a party for a grade and above. We all do everything together. Our iftars are here where everybody comes. We don't go to a 5-star hotel and take certain people and then leave other people to go to somewhere less. That's not how life should be. And so I think including everybody and making and changing some people, changing some behaviors. And it's not easy. It's a journey, and we are definitely still on that journey. We have things happen every day and you think, oh gosh, and then you remember where we've come from.
And like, what was the biggest setback in that journey?
Oh, you've got me there. If you ask me what was the biggest positive in the journey, it was COVID, because it brought us together like nothing else. We had to deliver, and we were delivering water for the UAE. So the biggest setback we've had.
And how you overcame it, of course.
How do we overcome it? Oh, I can't even answer that. That's a really tough one. I think, do you know what this biggest setback that we do have actually, and it happens every year, is summer. Because summer happens, the UAE goes very quiet, and when our sales team are kind of low on numbers, things like that, when that happens, it does change the energy in the business. So we did a lot of work last year on making sure that there was always people around. So that whole office didn't disappear as well, because that's also tough for the sales team, because they have to plan their holidays quite rigidly around kind of sales targets and things, which isn't always fair, but it's a sales role. So that's probably the biggest thing we've done, is working through that summer period, I think, but that's always been a setback for the business.
Okay, one other question I have is that, like, you obviously, I mean, this is almost a cliche question, right? Like you're dealing with so many different nationalities here. You're not just dealing with the different grades or different departments, right? Like you're also dealing with a lot of different nationalities. Was that part of the challenge as well? Like, how do you bring about people from extremely diverse backgrounds to sit at the same table and play Pong together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have my length of stay here in the UAE has led me to dealing with lots of different cultures throughout that time. So when I was working in Egypt, I did a big cultural change piece about, because the Egyptians who were working in Egypt and the expats working in Egypt, bringing them together as one team on the project I worked on there. So I've got experience of that. So I was quite lucky. I think if somebody came in straight away new to a job like this, they'd be like, oh, how do I do this? I think cultural respect is so important. And I think there's the map of cultural dynamics, isn't there, where they talk about, some people believe in, you're not guilty until charged. Some people believe purely in trust and honor. And then you've got hierarchy systems in other cultures. I see now here that everybody respects everybody else's culture. Some people don't like being shouted at, and other people get quite passionate, and and you can hear them shouting, and you have to explain, well, actually they're talking to one another. Because I one of the supervisors, bless him, I used to come in really early in the morning, and one day I heard this really, what I thought was a shouting conversation. And I went and asked someone, they were like, no, he's congratulating them. So it is definitely about understanding that culture and checking, what's going on, and fact checking before you do anything. I think that one thing that we've done well here is we celebrate absolutely everything going, everything, every nationality and every religion. And I think that as long as you are prepared to do that and be very inclusive, you can succeed in a business with many, many nationalities and cultures.
Yeah, and maybe another, like, I will tie it back to well-being here now. When I look at well-being numbers in the UAE, I'm seeing that like the UAE is doing much better compared to other countries in the world. It's almost a safe haven, I would say, Emma. Like when you compare it to Turkey, for example, there's no earthquake. When you compare it to the UK, yes, there is inflation, but there's not like inflation, like unstoppable inflation, maybe that we can talk about. So it's safe, like people
It
are.
is safe. I mean, crime is minimal. I think the one thing that we do have here, and I'm going to be doing a piece on LinkedIn about this soon, is about moving here, because I think there is a perception that people say to me when I go home, you haven't got a tan, or people used to write, why are you on holiday? You live in Dubai. You shouldn't be going on holiday. And I'm like, it's not sunny when I come to work, and it's not sunny when I go home, because the work life here is intense. You are expected to do more, and you've got to be prepared for that. You can't come here and think, oh, well, I'll just, I'll do my 9 to 5 and walk away. I understand flexi working. I understand work-life balance, but it's demanding working in the Middle East. It really is. And you've got to be prepared for that. But there is no crime. We are very lucky. It's, yes, we can go to the beach at the weekend, but then you could do that if you're in LA or something. I'm not sure whether it's LA, but somewhere California, something like that. I'm not very good with my geography.
LA, yes, you can go.
Yeah, my husband once said to me, have you ever been to Wales? And I said, to Bristol, and that's in my own country. So, he wasn't my husband at the time, by the way. So yeah, it is fantastic living here. We are really lucky. Our children are safe, and we don't luckily haven't had an earthquake. We felt a few from Iran, but nothing on the scale of the disasters you've seen in Turkey. So from a well-being perspective, yes.
I was just going to connect it to exactly that. But when you look at the numbers, the well-being index seems to be increasing. But one thing that keeps on increasing with it too is the level of stress, the always-on culture. That seems to be the one thing that's bugging people, like if I may use that word. So it looks like that's part of the equation that's really feeding this like people, it's really driving people to change jobs, I believe, to look other things where they can actually cherish their children more, cherish their time more. Like this is especially what we're seeing after COVID with this one research piece that we've done with PwC. Do you see a similar trend here? People quitting because of this always on culture, stress, and do you think they're finding what they're looking for when they quit?
We haven't seen them quitting for work-life balance. We've seen a slightly higher attrition over the past few months for other reasons, probably more financial. I would say 50% of those have contacted us to ask if they could come back because they haven't valued the remote working, the flexi working, the culture that our leaders have, that we're quite relaxed about stuff like those kind of things. There are certain roles where you do have to be present in the office, but there are others where that people have had flexibility and they've gone and they've left for that financial reason. And I made that mistake once very young in my career, and I jumped for money, and I would never ever do that again, because I learned a very hard lesson that I didn't see my children for weeks on end because and that was what drove me, rather than thinking about other things. Whereas now I think I understand, and I always say to people, I understand you want to leave, I understand why you're leaving. And I don't say take this into account, but just say, we're here. And a lot of people have called us back and said, can you just talk me through what I can do in this situation? And there's things we can't change for people, but it is, the always on culture is quite prominent here, I think. But then people I speak to in the UK tell me the same. So because COVID actually created that for us. I know everyone says, oh, COVID created remote working, flexi working, blah, blah, blah. COVID created an always on culture because we were stuck in our houses at our desks, and you didn't have to switch off to drive home at 5 o'clock or cook tea, because you could be doing that and still be on your laptop. So we actually found that we saw people with more burnout during COVID because they were always on, whereas now they get to switch off.
Okay, amazing. So how do you think, what I'm hearing from you is people are leaving because more of financial reasons, and like also there's a recent research on this by Deloitte, and Deloitte numbers show that people actually are regretted by 72%, not by like 50%, by like if they leave solely on financial reasons, and they do come back for those reasons that you just mentioned, like more well-being opportunities, more like flex options, more a better culture, you know, those are the things that people miss the most. And they miss their co-workers. Like that's another reason that they cite. Like I couldn't find the same people when I left. That's what they say. So now coming back to that, like what are the type of like well-being, I guess, like initiatives, activities that you do? And I don't mean just the personal trainer or the yoga class here. Like you talked about flex benefits, you talked about the culture, you talked about the managers. What are, like, I would say maybe the top 3 things that you do that makes a big difference in people's lives?
The first one is coaching.
Yeah.
It's coaching, and it's our managers coach our teams.
Wow.
So we have been investing a lot in that management style around of getting people to understand the difference between coaching, questioning, a zero blame culture. And for me, that's well-being, because people have to feel psychologically safe at work. Amazing. So for me, that's the biggest thing we do: coaching, the psychological safety, feeling safe, feeling that I can tell somebody something and not be afraid of a consequence. My biggest rule with my own team is tell me a problem before it happens, and as long as I know I can fix it for you. Right. If we hide stuff, that we move into a very different safety zone. So I think they're the things that we do. Yes, I mean, we have a football table, we have an amazing barista, don't get me wrong. We do obviously do the Wellbees walk-in challenge that turns a little bit competitive on the well-being side of things. But we make sure, you know, our team leaders are empowered to spend time with their teams, go and do what they like. I mean, I did talk about this. So finance, and I know you're a finance human, so this will excite you. Our CFO, because lots of companies are saying to me, right, how does the CFO measure your well-being? How does she look at those numbers? So our CFO actually took her whole team out for a day into the desert. They did all sorts of activities at month-end closing. And everyone was like, oh, it's all of finance, it's month end. And she said, yes, because this is our most stressful time. I'm taking them away. We're going to sit, we're going to chill, we're going to talk together, we're going to work out what issues we've got, how we can make processes better, but we're going to do it during work time, and we're going to do it at our most busiest time. And everyone was like, wow, okay. And the power that had on that team, we closed month end quicker than ever before. Wow. But it's the well-being thing, and I can't stress this enough. When you start saying to people, we'd like you to do team building, we'd like you to go and do a beach cleanup, or we'd like you to do this, and then you ask them to do it in their own time, there is nothing worse. So we make sure well-being activities are done during our paid hours, because that's fair. That's, you know, we're asking you to go and do it. Yes, we do offer to pay for things like marathons, stuff like that, if people want to go off and run them, but that's choice. There's never any, please, can you run a marathon for us? Because we've got some sponsorship going on in there. So it's a very different way of looking at well-being, I think. But I think the things that we do around coaching, psychological safety, teamwork, team building, and obviously the Wellbees challenge.
Amazing. Like what you just said actually fits so beautifully with the latest research that we've done with PwC. We've done this research in 5 different countries, and Emma, number one thing that impacts employee engagement and employee well-being far and foremost is managers take on psychological safety. So I think you're right on spot there. And psychological safety is not to say everybody can say anything that they like, and it's like a Slack culture. No, like it's the opposite, actually. Like people are given high-level goals, but they're also like feel safe enough to actually raise their own concerns when it's the right time to raise them. So I'm totally on board with you on that. And there's like, we looked at our data actually after seeing this result from that survey, and try to see if like the level of managers' well-being affects their team. And there was a huge correlation, you know, like we actually compared it with different years, and this year is when we're seeing this the most. So if a manager feels, for example, 4 out of 5, their teams don't feel anything above or below 4.05 or 3.95. Like there's a huge correlation. And that like there's only 5% difference between how a manager feels and their team feels. So like I'm so on board with everything that you just said about like managers making an example of themselves, like them leading the way. Like I loved every single thing that you gave an example about right now. Now coming into Wellbees Challenge, we're going to have the Wellbees Challenge on May 19th. So it's starting in 2 weeks' time. Before we do start, I want to hear a little bit about like how you did join, what kind of a process it was for you, and if it indeed end up changing some behaviors.
Okay, so we've done it twice now, the Wellbees Challenge. The first one, I have to admit, I didn't drive. It came from my team. They obviously, I said, let's do it. And they did the drive and they did the roundup, and there was some serious competition going on in this place. Really serious competition. And what was fantastic, again, when we talk about teams like sales and people say, well, sales standalone and supply chain, they didn't. There was generally, you could check the leaderboard every day and people were checking to see what they needed to do and what they needed to achieve. I think the teamwork that it brought together, the celebrations that we were able to have, the onboarding was one of the most simplest things I've ever done in my life. And I'm not just saying that because it's you. The fact that you did all the hard work for me, you have no idea how much easier that makes it for me to do things again, because I'm like, if I just have to be, I don't have to think about the media and things. So that the onboarding was really easy. The teamwork that came together, the reminders that we were able to do, the webinars that we held about health during the week. It's because for me, it's not just about the walking. It was about the how do I feel today? The reminders on have you drunk enough water? And would you believe it, we're a water company and we still have to remind people to drink water, even though we have it all around us in the office. So I think those things were a definite driver, and what it plotted for us was how our teams were feeling. And that goes back to that research around managers. You could see when a manager was having a bad day, the impact that would have on the people. So I think the data, and CFOs love data. I quite like data now. I'm getting better with it, but the data that after the challenge gave us about how people were feeling, what had happened, it wasn't just who did enough steps, which I think is the difference with this challenge. I think when you do, like, it's great to do walking challenges. I've been doing them for years, and we used to have those little pedometers, and used to be able to put them on the dog and walk the dog. It's yeah, so that was what it brought for me, was how our people were feeling generally, and it enabled us to put things in place that we hadn't thought about before. So again, that was one of the things around team building. People were like, actually, we want to do more of this. So we encouraged our managers to do more. Like I said, I didn't actually do very well in the Wellbees Challenge, the first one, even with the support of everybody trying to get my Apple Watch to log on to it and make it happen for me, because I am useless with technology. You're lucky I'm even still on this call, frankly, because it normally breaks. Everything normally breaks me. So the second challenge, I decided that I was going to do this. And I believe, did it start on the 28th of February or the 1st of March?
The last one started on, you caught me on the spot there. I think it was 1st of March.
I think, yeah, it was the 1st of March, because the day before I thought, right, I'm going to do this. So if anybody's, I'm going to have to get on a treadmill and start. And I've got a treadmill in my house. I've had it there. It's been a clothes horse for 2 years. So I decided to unpack it and actually put it out. And so I got on and I did like this hour walk. And I was like, this is actually really quite nice. I put a podcast on. I'm quite enjoying this. And I engaged with the challenge, and it did not, and I am still doing it to this day. So I still make, and it wasn't just about the winning. I do like to win and be at the top of that leaderboard. There were days when I wasn't going to bed till very late because I was getting back on that treadmill to get those steps in. But I think that it really had a profound effect on me this time, and I was determined to make sure that the teams did it as well, because it is a benefit to your health, but also how do you feel today? How did you sleep? That really impacted me, because it meant I could start tracking my sleep a lot better. I wasn't known for my sleeping, so I've started to change my evening habits as well. So for me, the Wellbees Challenge actually had an absolutely profound effect this time, because like I say, I'm now exercising for an hour and a half every day because of said challenge.
Oh my God, when do you do that? You have, like, I'm personally curious, like, you have a C-level job, like, how do you do that?
Well, we all know the story that I've come off social media, so now I've got loads of time, haven't I? So I get up at 6, I bike for at least 40 minutes, and then I walk for at least 40 minutes as well. I've got 2 dogs, so they need a jolly good walk every evening. But it's a matter of time management. But coming off social media was a massive help, because I was literally sitting scrolling for hours, and it certainly wasn't getting me anywhere. And by listening to podcasts, I'm learning all the time instead. And I listened to something this morning actually where somebody talked about try and learn one thing a day outside of your sphere of knowledge. So outside of HR, try and learn one thing a day and write it on a card and put it on a box. And then at the end of the month, get that box out. And the man who actually founded drive-through burger places in America did that technique. And how he founded his drive-through was because he learned that bananas get cheaper. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't the drive-through, it was the airplane seats. Bananas get cheaper as they're going off, and he set up the same system for airplane seats and sold his company for $1 billion because of bananas, because he learned something new every day. So I thought that was quite a good win. So I think I'm going to try that this month.
I can't believe this, because you're talking about a stack of different new habits here. So like, how do you wake up at 6 in the morning every morning?
It wasn't fun at first. I've now become a bit more accustomed to it. I use the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 out of bed, because I'd really rather not. But it, you know, once you're up, and I do this with my eyes shut. So when I'm first there working out, my eyes aren't open. But you get there, and it's cool.
Okay, so but like, did you change anything in your evening routine to be able to get up at 6?
I actually go to bed later. So I've actually started to stay up a bit late. I know, you know me, Melissa, like to be in bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I've actually started to stay up. So I'm actually not going. So whereas I was going to bed and watching TV, I don't do that anymore. So I go to bed to sleep at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that's it. And that's what I do. So that gives me that proper sleep, so I can click the happy button on my app. And yeah, it's changed me.
Amazing. And in the morning, like, can you give us one name of a podcast that you love?
I love Mel Robbins.
Okay, beautiful. I also want to know a little bit about like, what's the Wellbees challenge? I know like you talked about the team building, but what type of habits did it bring about for the teams, other than the ones that we just talked about?
Well, look, it's made my teams go out on walks together at lunchtime. You actually see people. So we work in an industrial estate. This is the other thing, when people talk about the glitz and glamour of Dubai. I don't work in a skyscraper. I work in an industrial estate. And my teams are out walking still together. There's, you know, that was the other bit that worked really well for us, was actually the individual challenges. You could set different people. Right. So there was a bit of competition going on there. But more than that, things like the photo of the day competition, beautiful photos of Dubai. And all of a sudden you're seeing these places which you'd never known before, and people saying, where's that? I want to go there. It connected our factory with our head office as well, with a greater meaning, because sometimes they feel like they're 4,000 miles away and actually they're 45 minutes up the road. So all of a sudden we were seeing all of this information from the factory, which was really engaging people, and people who wouldn't normally have spoken together started having conversations about, I've taken this photo, I've been out hiking here, would you like to come here and hike with me? So I think it definitely brought our teams closer together.
Amazing, so exciting. So I would like I can do this for the next hour or two with you. I know that we've done it before. But we have to like now cap it at 33 minutes, I think, to make it more digestible for everyone. Stay tuned, because Emma is coming up with more surprises, I would say. Not in terms of Wellbees, but like in terms of maybe more content that will come up on LinkedIn, I'm sure. You're going to post it, right, Emma, at some point? Yeah, all right. So I'm not going to ruin the surprise. Watch out for this space. And don't forget, Wellbees Challenge is starting on 19th of May. And if you want to jump on that train and get some new healthy habits for yourself, it might mean to wake up at 6 and walk your dogs every day for an hour and a half. Or not, it might be something completely different. It might be saving some money, like journaling for yourself, or it might be something.
Drink water.
Or drink water. Yeah. So I can't believe that, by the way, like that in Masafi, that really helped you with the water. Yeah. So looking forward to having everybody on board for the 19th of May. There are going to be about 100 different companies from 100 different countries. Don't forget that we can support you in 9 different languages. So just reach out to us via an email or through LinkedIn. Or go to Emma. Like she talks about this challenge much better than I do anyways. So thank you so much, Emma, for your time. Get well soon. We didn't talk about this, but she's a little sick today, although she doesn't show it at all. And talk to you again soon sometime.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.
See you soon.